Welcome into Week 13 Waiver Wired, folks. We are wired and amped for the week and the potential players that are on the docket that you can get. These guys got some talent, and they could be in your starting lineup. Anyways, I hope you had a great Thanksgiving. Enjoyed the good food, the company. You got to watch some good football games. Hopefully it wasn't crazy travel for you, because I know Thanksgiving is the busiest travel day of the year.
Excuse me, we'd like you to have this flower. Excuse me, sir, would you...
But realistically, I hope you had some time to relax, enjoy yourself, and enjoy fantasy football while you're at it. So, how about you say we get into those Week 13 waiver wire options?
Have you ever felt?
Are you listening? Damn.
Now, I know what you're thinking. You're like, Slate looks pretty bad this week, right? Not so much. Like, he doesn't have the super high star power names. There's a few guys that have it. Like, we'll talk about those guys in a second. But they're guys that can be in your lineup, which, that's important. That's what we need, right? Especially this time of the year when we are only 2 weeks until playoffs. Now, some people might start a little bit earlier. Some people might start a little later. But most people are starting Week 15. So we have Week 13. We have Week 14. You shouldn't have much fab left at this point. There's been a ton of guys to grab. If you are hoarding your fab, spin the damn fab. Nothing worse than with your season ending and you have all that fab on your roster, because that sucks, right? So let us get into the additions this week, and we are going to touch on Mr. Running Backs. Now, we saw last night Najee Harris in his disaster season. It just continues. And shocker, Benny the Snell actually looked better. So it's like, man, at this point, what's going on with Najee? Now, on top of that, he left the game with what looked like an abdominal injury. And a few PT guys were saying it's quite possibly a sports hernia, which means he's going to be out a while. And I know what you're thinking. Oh, grab Benny Snell. No, don't grab Benny Snell. Let someone else grab Benny Snell. Go get Jalen Warren. Jalen Warren is available in 8.5% of ESPN fantasy leagues. I want you to drop 15%. That's right. 15% of your fab on him. And you know why? Because he's the backup running back. He's actually been good. He's been a lot better than Najee. He's been the best running back the Steelers have had this year. And I know that's not saying much because Najee has not been good. Warren has been so much better than him. And I know Najee's had all those issues, whatever, but Warren's proven he's good back in the league. So he's going to step into a lot of volume. And I know what you're saying. Oh, Steelers offense sucks. Doesn't matter. Volume is king. If you look at the top 12 running backs this week, none of them had less than 17 opportunities. Opportunities equal fantasy points. That's how it works, folks. Running backs chase volume. And guess what? Jalen Warren will get the volume. He's the guy. Mike Tomlin said the injury was not as severe as let on. So guess what? This week, Jalen Warren's the guy you want. Go get him. You'll be able to play him. You can start him in your lineups. Especially if you need a running back. He's a great short-term addition. And could be longer. If Najee does have this fortune like hernia, he could be out the entire year. So go get Warren. He's basically available in every roster. So go get him and get him now. Running back number 2, Kyron Williams. The guy that was left for dead after his horrendous combine performance. But he's made a comeback, and he's actually been a better running back. Shocker. Another starting running back who was hyped up, Cam Akers, and just has been a massive disappointment. Daryl Henderson got waived. Cam Akers just absolutely sucks. He's legit the worst running back in the NFL this year of people who had 76 carries. Like, his rushing yards over expectation is dead last in the NFL. He's been horrific. Guess what? Guess who McVay hyped up in the offseason? Kyron Williams. Guess who's been better? Kyron Williams. Guess who's going to get more opportunity? Kyron Williams. He basically, his snap share and opportunities has gone up each week. He was at like 70% last week. It's Kyron Williams' job. And I know what you're thinking. The offense sucks. Well, guess what? Guess what Kyron Williams is good at? Receptions and pass blocking. Like, that's his go-to. He's a good receiver. So he's going to get opportunity. And this is the same thing. And yes, they don't have Stafford. It could be that it gets a disaster. But guess what? If he's going to get opportunity, they're going to be a negative game script. He's going to see the ball. Because guess what? The rest of the running backs just aren't that good on the roster. So Kyron Williams, he's available in 19% of ESPN fantasy leagues. Go drop 10% of your fab on him. It may sound ugly, but he can give you production, and that's what matters. Now, the third running back, Mr. Daryl Henderson. And I know what you're saying. Why Daryl Henderson? Well, Travis Etienne injured his foot. And guess what? It was JaMychal Hasty who took Snoop Connor's job, who we thought would be the backup, but Hasty took that job. Henderson's a better player than Hasty. He just is. And the Rams did Henderson a favor by just letting him go because he wanted to get out. So he signs into a great offense. And if this injury is severe for ETN, which it doesn't sound like it is, but just in case, like we saw what Hasty did in that opportunity. He was fantastic in the passing game. Henderson is a much better runner, so he's going to get opportunity. And we saw how good Travis Etienne was on the ground this year. Jaguars' offense has been sneaky good. Go get Henderson. He's not going to cost much. He's 36% of ESPN fantasy leagues. He wasn't active because it was just his first week in Jacksonville. Go drop just 3% of your fab. He's not going to cost much. But realistically, you're looking for guys that are stepping into volume and opportunity. That's Daryl Henderson. Now, if you want, you go to the Jets situation. Carter's injury is TBD. We don't know what's going on. And we saw how that situation played out. So you can go chase the Jets backfield if you want to. I prefer Henderson, but realistically, it's up to you. There's plenty of guys you can go get this week. But those are my top 3 running backs. Now, wide receivers. The man, the myth, the legend, Treylon freaking Burks, baby. Wide receiver 1. Yes! Burks daddy. He's been incredible. He's been all you could ask for, right? He had turf toe. That really cut his season short, but man, he's been incredible. Now, I don't know if y'all follow Britt Flynn on Twitter. She was talking about Burks could be a wide receiver 1 the rest of the season, and I was like, yo, baby, let's ride. Now, I'm not that high in him where, quote-unquote, like league winner status, but realistically, he saw more snaps. He's basically locked in, almost a full-term player in the Titans offense, and they need wide receivers. I know everybody was like, oh, Nick Westbrook. It's like, no. Robert Woods, yeah, he's kind of old, not that great. Realistically, there is a path to Burks being very good down the stretch. And this, if you remember last year, you remember the rookie that took off that nobody thought was going to take off? Amon-Ra St. Brown took off in week 13 and was a stud. Now, I'm not saying that's going to be Burks. I'm not saying he's going to put up 25 or whatever fantasy points per game, right? But he will be a locked-in starter for you each week moving forward. So, yeah, Burks. He's available in 37% of ESPN fantasy leagues. Go drop 15% of your fab on him. He's the guy you want out of all the waiver wire guys. If I'm going to pick one guy, it's Burks. Because he can step in, immediately give you flex play, if not higher each week. So, like, that's kind of the floor play for him. And you see him, he's making big plays, he's being involved. Like, that's the wide receiver you want. You want wide receivers that are going to dominate targets. His yards per run is very good. His targets per run is wild. So, yeah, Treylon Burks. Now, the next guy, Zay Jones, he's not as sought after because he doesn't have the name cachet. He's been really freaking good. He saw a 37% target share last week. 37%. It's wild. He's still only rostered 31% of leagues. And go drop 8% of fab on him. He's proven he's the focal point of the Jaguars offense. It's him, it's Christian Kirk. The other guys, not so much. You'll see Ingram for the tight ends later, but that's a different story. But realistically, these two are the top dogs in this offense. And Jones has been good. So guess what? Lawrence is coming along. He's actually proven to be hey, guess what? I'm the guy we thought you were getting. After a year and a half of just horrific play, he's coming along. He's looking good. And that offense is proving along. So that's why you see multiple Jaguars on the list this week. Jones actually is a guy I would have be confident starting. Like, no problem. Like, he's been very good, coming on strong. So, Zay Jones. We thought it was the other Jones possibly earlier in the Marvin Jones. Turned out it's the other Jones, Mr. Zay Jones. Just go get him. Like, he's another wide receiver who could be impact for you down the stretch. Our third wide receiver, Darius Slayton. And I know what you're thinking. Darius Slayton, he's bleh. I'm like, hold up. Can you name another wide receiver the Giants have? Yeah, feel free. Name them off. Let me know who you think's a good wide receiver on that team. They literally have one of, if not the worst wide receiver course in the league. And guess who's the wide receiver 1? Darius Slayton. He is their guy. And it sucks for Wandale because Wandale was looking great. But Slayton's the guy you want. It's one of those additions where the name cachet is not great. But you look and you're like, oh, he put up 10 points. He put up 15. Oh, he exploded for 20 points this week, right? Like, that's what you're looking at. So, Slayton's going to give you solid floor play. And if he hits, he could be a wide receiver too. Like, you can definitely start Darius Slayton. He's not been bad at all. And I know Burks is going to be the shiny toy, but Slayton's going to be good. It's the wide receiver 1 in offense. If you can't get the wide receiver 2 in a very good offense, a.k.a. Zay Jones, something like that, go chase the wide receiver 1 that's available on a decent offense. And then I know they don't pass a ton, but guess what? If it's a wide receiver 1, he's carved down target share. This is similar to Treylon Burks, except it's not Treylon Burks. Treylon Burks is better, but that's not what I'm saying. What I am saying is we want those guys on our teams because guess what? They can provide production and be good for you, especially in PPR leagues. Like, that's what we're looking for. So, those are the three. Burks, Zay Jones, Darius Slayton. Go get him. Now, let's go to quarterbacks, folks. And I've been talking about this guy for like 3 weeks now. Deshaun Watson. Still only rostered in 43% of ESPN leagues. What the heck are we doing here, folks? Do you guys realize he is the most accurate quarterback in NFL history? That's right, NFL history. And he's a Konami QB. He has athletic rushing ability upside. That's why he's an elite fantasy option. And they get the Texans his first week back, which is nice because he could struggle, but realistically, like, I don't care. There's only a handful of impact quarterbacks. So if you don't have one of the Mahomes, the Hurts, the Allen, players that level, like if you're with like the Cousins, if you're like Trevor Lawrence, like you're with those guys, you're starting quarterbacks, go pick up Watson. He could legit win you the league in the playoffs. Like that's how good he could be. So go get Watson. Like just drop 10% of your fab on him. Go get him. It's as easy as that. Sometimes we just want elite players who can give you a boost, and they're rarely available this time of year. Watson is that guy. Go get him. You can start him. Quarterback number 2, Jared Goff. Rostered in 29% of ESPN Fantasy League. 3% of your fab, folks. It ain't going to cost much, but we have a shootout this week. Goff gets the premium matchup. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's what we want. Jared Goff playing Jacksonville. Their defense sucks. So guess what? We're going to get Trevor Lawrence, Jared Goff. The over-under, 51.5 points. It's gone up multiple points this week. Vegas is expecting a shootout, and you should shoot. They're two good offenses going up against bad defenses. You know what that means? Fantasy points galore. And Jared Goff in the right matchup can put up points for you. You've seen it before. Like, you've seen him. He's very solid. We saw him put 37 against Seattle. We saw him put up 30 against Washington earlier this year. Like, that's money. That is money. Like, you see what I'm saying? And he could easily get 20-something fantasy points this week. And that's good. Like, that's what you want. And you're trying to win secure, like, your playoffs, right? You want guys that are going to produce. Go get Jared Goff. Now, the third guy, you're going to think I'm crazy. It's Mike White. Now, hear me out. He's only rostered to 2% of ESPN fantasy leagues. Spend one fab. Now, this is if you have, like, an injured QB. If you have, like, Aaron Rodgers, who I don't know why you would have been starting Aaron Rodgers, but if you have somebody in that line, or if you're streaming with, like, a Mariota or anyone like that, go get Mike White. He has a fantastic matchup this week. Like, I don't know why you wouldn't get him. So go grab Mike White, and you can play him. Like, you saw him ball out against Chicago. And, yeah, their defense sucks. You know whose defense sucks against the pass? Minnesota. They cannot stop the pass. And guess who gets to eat? Garrett Wilson. Even Elijah Moore's alive. Okay, guess what? Freaking Tyler Conklin could do something. It's like, yeah, like sometimes matchup is super important to streaming. This is what we're doing with Mike White. We're particularly streaming quarterback in the perfect matchup. Now, if Rodgers does miss time, you could go for Jordan Love. If you want to go Jordan Love route, totally fine with that. He's actually looked pretty good. But we legit saw Mac Jones light up the Vikings for 382 yards on Thanksgiving. Like, Mac Jones, you know, the guy that is not passing a lot. They're not letting him sling the rock. Like, that's the thing with the Vikings. Their offense is so good and their defense is bad. They boost the game for the opposing quarterback because guess what? They're bringing them along with higher production. So guess what? Jets are going to have to score. They're going to have to score a lot. So guess who that helps? Mike freaking White. So when you get matchups like this, I know it sounds ugly, but if you're chasing quarterback and none of these other guys are available and it's a deeper league, go get Mike White. You can start him this week. He's going to be surprised. He'll actually be pretty good. So Mike White's the last guy of the quarterbacks. We got Deshaun Watson, Jared Goff, Mike White. Go get one of those guys. Watson's obviously the cream of the crop, but the other two, very streamable quarterbacks to win you the matchup this week. Now, tight ends. And I know it's atrocious. Like, the tight end position's awful. Realistically, it's Kelsey, and it's just the biggest drop-off of all time to Andrews. And it's just, Andrews has been really good, but Kelsey's been on his own. He's legit, he would be the 101 if you were redrafting because he's been so good. At tight ends, realistically, all you're chasing are guys with opportunities for volume or guys that are running a lot of routes because it's just disaster. Like, you have Hawkinson, but there's just, like, nobody. We got Goddard hurt. Kyle Pitts is gone. Like, we just lost guys left and right. David Njoku's finally back, so we get another boost. But realistically, like, there's a handful of tight ends, and it's just dog poop like the rest of the way. So, with that said, Foster Moreau is the one tight end I trust the most. He's rostered in 35% of ESPN fantasy leagues. Go spend 7% of your fab. He's not coming off the field. He's legit playing every snap. You know what that means? That's production. That means he's running a lot of routes. If you're not getting elite production, you want guys that are running a ton of routes, that are on the field a bunch. That's Foster Moreau. The Raiders need somebody. Like, they don't have Darren Waller. They don't have Hunter Renfrow. Like, it's not a bad matchup. Chargers aren't too good against tight ends, and they give up bombs to tight ends. The average reception is over 14 yards. The only other team that allows that is Seattle, a team that's incredibly bad against tight ends. So you're going to get Moreau with a chance that he hits a big play and he ends up in the end zone. Like, that's really, it's not hard to be a tight end when Moreau has a very good shot at it. So go get Moreau. Like, I trust him over the other two guys. But if you can't get Moreau, Evan Ingram is tight end number 2. He is rostered in 36% of ESPN fantasy leagues. Go spend 3% of fab. Now, I know in my article I wrote, like, how does the saying go? Burn me once, shame on you. Burn me 100 times, shame on me. Yeah, that's basically what it is. I know with Evan Ingram, he is one of the most frustrating players the last, like, half decade. You see the talent, you saw his rookie year, and he's just never lived up to it, right? And he has the draft capital, the pedigree. Like, you think this guy would be good. He's fine. Like, I'm not thrilled, but he has the Detroit matchup, and we're going to get a ton of points in this matchup. So, with tight ends, you want guys who are on the field, running routes, and ideally in positive game scripts. Yeah, like, in positive game script, I mean, like, high-scoring affairs where it's conducive to scoring fantasy points. That's what this Jacksonville-Detroit game is going to do. So, realistically, that's what you want to do. You want to chase it and chase it some more. So, Evan Ingram, absolutely. Go drop some money on Evan Ingram. I know it's not the quote-unquote best, but realistically, like, you could do a lot worse than starting Evan Ingram this week. That's where the tight end position is. It's not great. Our third tight end, Greg Doucet. I ain't giving up on Doucet. He's still rostered 46% of ESPN fantasy leagues. Drop 2% of your fab on him. Now, he had a touchdown callback last week. If he would have had a touchdown, if that didn't get called back, he would have had his 4th top 12 tight end performance in 6 weeks. Like, yeah, that's what we want. Tight end's a dumpster fire. And once you get below the 50% like roster rate, it's guys you're just chasing. So realistically, I'm betting on the talent I've seen from Dulcich. The matchup isn't great, but realistically, like, is Baltimore, they're middle of the road against tight ends. It's not like they shut them down. It's not like you're going against the Saints or anything like that. The matchup, it's solid. And Dulcich, he's on the field, he's running routes, and man, that Denver offense really needs somebody. So go get Dulcich. He's the 3rd tight end. This is more just a love letter to Greg Dulcich than anything else. Like, I'm just betting on the talent. Because once you get past Moreau and Ingram, it's literally pick your guy. Dulcich is my favorite. So that's what I'm going with. So, to recap, go down the list. Jalen Warren, Kyron Williams, Daryl Henderson. Wide receivers, Treylon Burks, Zay Jones, Darius Slayton. Quarterbacks, Deshaun Watson, Jared Goff, Mike White. Tight ends, Foster Moreau, Evan Ingram, Greg Dulcich. Now, this isn't the best way as far as free agent options are available, but week 12 is a lot better than this week. There's still quality names on there. Go get these guys. If you have a guy on your bench that you're just chilling, he's a roster clogger, you're never going to play, drop him. Go get somebody with upside. If you think one of these guys has upside, go get them. Like, there's no point in rostering guys who are never going to play on your bench. The only other reason you have them is if you are picking them up for matchups to prevent your opponent from playing them, right? So say if you had, some running back. Say you had, Cam Akers on your roster, right? You're never playing Cam Akers, especially with his performance. The only reason you would keep a guy like that on your roster is so somebody's to pick him up. But realistically, like, Cam Akers, you could just cut because he's never going to play. And that's why we're putting Kyron Williams in there. So if you look at your bench, you want upside shots on your bench. That's what you need. Or you need solid floor plays. Maybe you have a bunch of high risk, starting options in your lineup. So then you go get the solid floor plays like a few of these guys are. But anyways, best of luck in your week 13 waiver wire ads. Hopefully you get these guys. Go get Burks. Go get Watson. Those are the 2 top dogs. Keep an eye out on the other guys. But Warren's the top one. Outside of that, the rest of the guys have like solid opportunity pass. And that's what we're chasing. So go get these guys. Put them on your roster. And go win your week 13 matchups. And get the playoffs. Best of luck. Thank you for stopping by. I'm your host, Jesse Moeller, a.k.a. JMoeller05. You can find me on all the platforms, social media, every single one of them. I'm there. Take care, folks. We'll see you later this week.
Have you ever felt
Are you listening? Damn.